Ladies and gents, I am very, very excited for this moment. It has been quite a battle to get to this point. For those of you guys who have been following with me, the technology sides, the moving, the all the stuff, it's been quite a thing, and we're still not finalized. But I had to say no more. I don't give a rip because it was time, and it's November, and we're going to get to the end of the year, and this thing wasn't going to start. But I am so excited to have my brother from another mother that is here with me. He is the next gen pastor at TNC, which is True North Church. Guys, check this out. In Fargo, North Dakota. I had to remind the entire listening community, it's still a state. There is a place that is up there.
We exist.
You guys, you exist. And actually, it's very beautiful. We went there. Before I get into that, it's Matt Short, okay? And he's also, again, my brother-in-law. He's in the fam. He's the next gen pastor. Everybody, give it up for Matt Short, my brother. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good, dude. I miss you.
Yeah. I miss you, bro. All right, man. Matt, you are family or whatever you want to call it, next gen pastor church. Let's just go ahead. Let's start with that. One, I knew you. For those of you guys who don't know, we went to Bible College, God rest its soul, CBC.
It's gone.
Bible College. It's a sad thing. That was in Springfield, Missouri, which is pretty much now Evangel, where we met, and I married his sister. No one thought it was possible.
I was rooting for you.
You were though. You may have been the only one. But yeah, man, it was a wild thing. But let's get into it, man. Did you see yourself? I know you obviously saw yourself in ministry. Did Matt Short see himself being a next gen pastor?
No.
Explain.
Yeah, that's it. Next question. Am I doing this thing right? We're doing a podcast. It's great. No, next.
Yeah, I know, right?
So easy. No, I remember I was in high school at youth camp, feeling that call to ministry. And as when I was at CBC, left CBC, at CBC, I heard God tell me I was going to help plant churches. And by the way, for everyone who just saw Taylor drink that cup, that's a big cup.
Y'all didn't see it.
That's a huge cup of coffee. It's the size of his head.
Merry Christmas.
My God.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. And I remember being at CBC and God telling me, you're going to plant churches. And I was like, I've never thought about planting churches. And I went down to that year I left. I went down to Dallas to a school down there, and then met some people and ended up doing a church plant in New Orleans. And that became bivocational. So I'm doing ministry, but also I'm working a full-time job somewhere else, trying to pay the bills and make money. And so I just thought ministry was going to be that for me, being in, like the secular world of work, and then just helping out, an extreme volunteer, putting in 25, 30 hours for people on top of working. So I had shifted my view of what I thought my call to ministry was. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to be being out, whether that was a UPS truck driver, a garbage man working in, IT, whatever it was going to be. I know what I was going to do. I just figured I was going to do that and tell people about Jesus and be a killer volunteer at the church I was at.
Right. Nice. So it kind of sounds like you always had at least an understanding, now correct me if I'm wrong, of the idea that, because some people struggle with this, that when we say ministry, when we automatically say that word, a lot of people immediately think of the stage, platform ministry, a mic in hand, or at least in the structure of program systems, things in a church. But it seems like you at least had an idea from the get-go that ministry was just person to person, people to people. It doesn't matter where I'm at, business, secular, non-secular, that whole thing. Because again, man, we went to CBC, and guys, for those of y'all who don't know, the motto, right, was it's all about the call. Okay. You can see the smile on Matt's face. I remember so many of these services, of the things, everything was about protecting and guarding your anointing and your giftings. And while I still believe that there can maybe be, a message for that, I think maybe we aired a little bit too much on the service of what we do for God. And again, it being in the context of being on a stage and those things. Do you think that, is that era gone? Or do you still think that the church in the West that we kind of are we need to shift our idea or our thoughts or our focus on what ministry looks like or maybe even supposed to look like?
I don't know if that era is gone.
Yeah.
I think with social media, there's things you got to do, right? If you're going to be a preacher and you're traveling churches to churches, like you got to post stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the world we live in. You got to have a brand. Churches got to know what you're about. So like you got to post, but in that, I think it raises up the younger people. They see that, and so that's what they think it is.
Mm,
Because that's what they're on. They're on social media,
right.
and so and then they get a job or an internship at a church, and then they realize there's so much more that goes into it than just
Surprise.
we're not just preaching. Like
Right.
we're raising money, we're doing
Yeah.
admin work. I hate admin work. Like I'm bad at it, but I'm getting better. Yeah, I feel like that era is still here, but I do think there's a generation, like being the next gen pastor, like I'm working with young adults and youth, and you can tell there's a hunger for something different than what we've been putting out for the past 20 something years. And so they want something different. And so I think as that era is here, I think it's morphing, it's shifting. And when I think about ministry in college, it was always like, I feel called to a country. I feel called to a place. And that could be a thing. Like that could be a thing. I never felt called to a place. I've always felt called to where people are. And it turns out people are everywhere. So, and I've always felt like I just need to follow God's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just remember being in college and God's like, hey, I just want you, I'm the shepherd, you're the sheep, and your call is to follow me, and I'm going to lead you where you're supposed to go. And so kind of going back to that, like, did I see myself being here as the next gen pastor? No, because as you get older, you typically don't see older people being the youth pastor or the next gen pastor, right? Like at that,
Yeah.
like that's a young man's game. And so
Are we old? Are we old, man? Was that just is that a confession right there?
I'm finding out that
Right.
at least my youth
Oh,
group, they
man.
call me old man.
They call
So
you old man? Oh,
yeah, they're little idiots though. So
yeah.
I love them all. We got a different kind of youth group. So if you just got offended by that, don't come to our youth group.
This is y'all. If you get offended easily at all, this may not be the podcast for you. Just in general, that's just letting the worldwide audience know. Yeah. I love it, man. So again, you're working with youth. You're working with the kids, but it's 2024. It's wild. It's almost 2025. I don't know how this is happening so fast. You talked about social media and how this is something. You talked about brand and how this is something in a day and age that, right, like we're having to go to where the people are at. And specifically in your context, you're having to go where the youth are at. And there's 6 point something billion people using social media on these apps, on these things every single day. And I would guess that a large majority of it would be youth. And so you're going to where they're at. How do you as a pastor, and for those of you guys who are listening or in ministry in any form, use social media as a way of connecting and fishing, as it were, but not we don't become seduced by the fame. We don't come seduced by playing the popularity game and comparison game and getting caught up in the numbers and who's getting more watches and views, because it can be very hard to not be data metric centered, right? To where the people who are really playing the social media game, you're looking at the numbers, you're checking out the views, you're seeing how you can tweak this tweet or X. I don't even know do you call it a tweet anymore? What does Elon Musk call it? Do you call that? People are still saying Twitter, but it's X. Like, I don't know.
It's X, dude. I don't even use X.
Oh, you don't?
Dude, I took everything off my phone.
Okay. Y'all don't know.
It's gone. My dream.
We may not, y'all, this may be the last time you ever hear from Matt Short, because in about a year or two, he's going to be living in the wilds of Wyoming or Montana, or just where he's at currently. He's going to go to a higher altitude, and you're going to have to reach him by way of messenger pigeon or hawk that you have. It's going to be fantastic. But or
just see you in heaven.
Man, how do we how do we use these things but not let us corrupt the purity of the intent and the people we're trying to reach?
There's this, I think data, metrics, I think all those things are great. You got to have it. You got to have it because that tells you everything you need, right? Does this content work? Does this content not work? Are they interested in this? Like you need that. But if you get obsessed by the metrics, then you're missing the point of what you're doing, and you're using social media as a tool to reach people. I'm in a lot of
You
churches
use it
too,
as a tool. You don't become a tool.
don't
essentially.
become a tool. Exactly.
Guys, y'all hear that? Hashtag it, tweet it. Use it as a tool. You don't want to become a tool. Okay, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Don't become a tool. Dude, and like for our social media, I got our volunteers. They're helping me because I got a lot on my plate, as most people do, and so I got a team that helps me with social media. I don't even look at it anymore. I'm practicing delegation, but so like I'm just trying to build up leaders and let them run with it. And so we're running, and so we're creating content, but like we use content to like, how can I provide anything that's of worth to our students? And I'm kind of going after Fargo. Like I don't care if we're got 20,000 people following us on Instagram. I don't care. Like you don't even come to our church. I have no interest in being a celebrity pastor. You remember Lyle Shawless? I know you remember him. You love
absolutely,
Lyle Shawless, dude. I love
legend.
You know what? And he's a pastor in Fairplay, Missouri. A town of how much, Taylor? How many people live out there?
Was it like it was at the time? Wasn't it like 400 something? 500, literally.
At 400,
wasn't even a one stoplight, guys. There was no stoplight.
Yeah. This guy, he was my roommate's dad. We would go to his church in college, and this was a time where, yeah, dude, I miss Josiah. There was a time where it's like you're going to all these big churches, and dude, don't get me wrong, I love big churches. Some people hate. I love all churches. I love the bride, so I love everything. I think each church has their thing. But what really stood out to me about Lyle Shawless was he was faithful there. And he's been faithful there in a town of 400 for how many years? Like 30 something years.
It's almost unheard of anymore.
And he's just been faithful there. So that's my dream. I don't want to be a celebrity pastor. I don't want to be like this big person. So social media, it's easy for me because I don't want it. Okay. I don't know how to tell someone not to want it. Like, read the Bible, let God search your heart and fix whatever pride, ego thing you got going on. Like, so I'm not trying to be a big famous Instagram youth group. What I do want to do is reach Fargo, and how can I use my social media to get into the people here who are in Fargo? And so, we got to look at hashtags. We got to look at what we're posting, who we're partnering with in town, so we can get more eyes on our post. But yeah, man,
it's funny, right? We're talking again about Fargo. So it seems like you're really focused on the local community, your church. Do you think that culture has a part to play in it, for instance, or is it just specifically, you're saying this is just Matt's personality? Would you struggle with that if you're in LA? If you're in a different place that it's like, brand and social media, those things catching in the go, like that world, right, is a little bit different in that bigger city.
Hey, first off, Fargo's huge.
He said, hold up. Don't be
Yeah.
What? I saw that slight you tried to
watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
You watch it.
But do you think that it's harder in those big cities, those other places where the pace of life is a little bit different? Or would you say, like, no, regardless of where I'm at, right? We have to stick true to the standards. We have to stick true to character. We have to. Do you think that makes it harder? Because you talk about the church world and the bigger cities, and you talked about, I love big churches, and there is when we say mega church anymore, it puts a bad taste in people's mouth, right? And I think it can also, and I'm talking to myself, I have a disdain towards.
That's a nice way to say
y'all,
it.
this will not. That's the lightest way you'll probably ever hear for the rest of the podcast and all these episodes. that I have towards the mega church when it comes to certain systems and structures and the how and yes, the why they're doing things. I'm not against massive numbers of people. Obviously, we want all to come to the saving knowledge of Jesus. The more, the better. Let's have a party. Let's make it awesome. But in places like Dallas, Texas, or California, you're seeing all these certain scandals. Do you think that culture has a part to play with it? Again, that we become obsessed with that comparison, trying to be relevant to the people around us, that we become so much like them that there's now a non-distinguishable factor. Like, what does it look like truly to being light in darkness, and how far is too far, if there is a too far, when it comes to, I've seen this sentence and seen it everywhere: we'll do nothing short of sin to reach people.
Mm-hmm.
There's been times that scares me by what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
Clarify for me that what's the positive side of that? Because there's things that I've seen with that I'm like, you're trying to become darkness to reach people in the dark, and unless I'm just seeing it wrong, you help a brother know.
I'll challenge you. Can I challenge you?
This is what curious, convicting guys, challenging, courageous conversations. This is what we're about. Let's go.
Cool, because I get it. Okay, let's start with the sentence, because they're not reaching sin, right? So, is cursing a sin? Like, there's things we got to decide, right? Is cursing a sin? Is drinking a sin?
Yep.
And these are things that people are having to live out their own convictions. Read the Bible, like you'll figure it out. It's there, like you'll figure those things out. And then, not that churches are out there drinking in the church, but my point is, like, some might be, but specifically, like even podcast, even this podcast, like, we want to have honest conversations, and some of it might be in our search, in our curiosity, like we're having to, like, maybe say things or ask questions, and maybe we're going down a thought pathway that may not be biblical at first, but through curiosity and through searching, we find it. You know what I mean? But we're not necessarily sinning, right? But it's open to be searched. And so, like, for me, I know it's not kind of like apples to apples, but, like, it's we're saying we're gonna go after people. We're gonna have cool production. We're gonna have, and I know you don't like I know the guys I'm talking to, Taylor. He's like, no, like, we're gonna do everything short of sin. We're not gonna sin. We're still going to maintain the line of holiness, but we are going to go do what Jesus did. And that's the tension that Jesus did and can do, because he's Jesus. And it's something that's a struggle for humanity that we've got to learn how to do. How do you be in the world, but not of it?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be in the world. Like, that's where we live. We live here.
Not all of us can be monks and go and just hide away in the mountains and want to just say F the world.
Yeah.
Right. Someone else can deal with it. I'm just going to go be holy by myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And reach who, like, we're called to go out. And so there's a tension. You gotta learn how to be in the world, not of it. Be an ambassador. Mm-hmm. An ambassador lives where they're being like, if you're an ambassador for the United States in a different country, you're living in that country, right? Am I making that up? I think I'm right. Anyway,
good.
But we live here. So how do I live here? How do I be a part of culture, but still maintain citizenship of heaven? And that's a tension that's hard to manage. Yeah. So just to further on the question, because, like, we're talking about trying to be relevant.
Yeah.
I think some of that's true. I also think there's a lot of pressure on pastors from people in the church. They expect too much from their pastor.
Explain on that. Yeah.
They want to stay on the tit of the pastor. Like, they don't want to get off. Like, they don't want to grow. They don't want to grow. They don't want to grow up. Like, and so it puts a lot of pressure on the pastor. They got to be perfect. They got to be these things. Then the pastor starts to feel isolated and feel alone. And if the pastor doesn't have a good system in place of accountability, no one's above it. No one's above temptation. I love what Craig Rochelle says. He talks about, I love what he says, I can't remember.
Guys, this quote changed my life so forever.
The concept is this. It's like, why would I struggle with temptation later if I can eliminate it today? And so, like, if you struggle with porn, take stuff off your phone, right? If you struggle with alcohol, like, don't go to parties. Get rid of all the alcohol in your house. Like, so when the temptation does come, there's nothing to even do except sit with the feelings and figure out, why am I
There's
here
no
in this
outlet
moment?
for it to have its way. Yeah.
So while I am strong, right? And so like, I just going back to like, I think the church and the people want too much from the pastor.
Okay.
And so I do think there's some of it that needs to be relevant. I think we've become so consumeristic in our faith in America that
Yeah.
we think, okay, I'm supposed to come to church on Sunday. The pastor gives me the word, and then I'll come back next Sunday and just rinse and repeat once a week. They'll disciple my kids. I don't do anything. And it's like, no, that could be farther from the case. Like, you're the parent, you disciple your kids. You're in charge of your faith. Like, you get in the word. The pastor's preaching the word. Now you go test the word. Go read it. Go read it for yourself. We're not Catholic.
All of my brethren and sisters out there in the world. That's great. Yes. So
Does that make sense?
yeah, no. I mean, it does. Listen, I don't mind good quality production. Again, I think for me, at the end of the day, like I have musical aspirations. I have aspirations one day. I would love to do like be involved in movies and TVs and all that stuff. I think for me, I have struggled to where is that line, if there's even supposed to be one, when it comes to the church running itself too much like a corporation and a business where we treat God's people like a product, and we're just
trying to get butts in the seats.
Yeah, we're just racking up these big numbers because we have said that's success. So Matt, what's your measurement of success ministerially and personally?
First off,
How does Matt measure success?
Is ministerially even a word?
It is today, my friends.
It is today. Yeah, man. I think I've told our church here, like, man can create experiences. We're good at creating experiences. Go watch a movie. Go to Disney World. Go to Hollywood Studios. Go to Universal. Like go to these theme parks. Go into stores and go check out these cool retail experiences. When I was working in retail, it's all about the experience for the customer. Like, we create experiences.
Yes.
We're good at that. God's gifted us to do that. The thing that we can't do, though, is heart transformation. And so a lot of times people look at the experience and think the anointing's there.
Yeah.
There's success there. Yeah, but the true thing is heart transformation. And so, like, for me, I'm looking at baptisms. Like, are we baptizing people? If we're not baptizing people, what are we doing? Because, like, we can raise our hand, say the prayer, but baptism now is like the next step. It's like what Jesus got baptized. Dude, Jesus got baptized. You should get baptized. Okay.
Maybe a good idea.
I don't care if you were baptized when you were an infant. Like, you make the decision yourself, right? So baptisms to me are like, that's a good stepping. Like, we're baptizing people. We're seeing now heart transformation. With my youth group, I felt like God recently was like, hey, I need you to prepare spiritually, administratively. Like, you got to build up these skills that you're kind of lacking in. Like, I just felt like I needed to, like, level up, basically, because I'm going to give you something that you need to be able to steward. And I said, okay. And so I've been in it, man. I'm trying to, I suck at administration, and in the Bible, dude, it's a spiritual gift, and I don't got it. So, which is wild that's a spiritual gift. So if you got the gift, man, kudos to you, and I applaud you, because I wish I had it. So I needed to level up on this. And our youth group has, like, when we started about a year ago, we had 10 people. We had 95 people last week. And we're about a year in. And so we're experiencing tons of growth. Here's the thing. We're experiencing a lot of numerical growth, but more importantly, I'm not looking at the numbers. Like, the numbers are like, dude, we got 95 people. And most people would be like, that's what God wants you to steward, the 95 people. What I'm realizing, what he's been talking to me, is he wants me to steward the world changers within that 95. And so I have incredible volunteer leaders and student leaders that I'm the ceiling. And so if I'm not consistently growing in my faith, if I'm not consistently studying the word, if I'm not consistently entering the presence of God and getting on my face and getting a fresh word and it growing and leveling up, like I'm the ceiling. And so they can only go as high as their leader can go. And so I have in order to steward them well, I have to step up and I have to keep going and give them a lot of room so they can start growing. And so as we've grown numerically, we've also grown spiritually as well. We now are starting to see people have coming up to me. Our students are like, I think I'm called to be a missionary. I'm called to full-time ministry. Like, this is cool. Like, we're not just like, I tell our students, our leaders, like, dude, if Jesus isn't here, I don't want to be here. Like, I'd rather be home with my wife and kids. I don't want to hang out with a bunch of teenagers on Wednesday night. You know what I mean? Who wants to do that?
Just keep it real.
I told you, it's for the young dogs, man. Like, let them do it. I don't want to do it. But we've set the tone at our youth group. Like, I don't mince my words. I preach hard messages. I call sixth graders up. Like, there's no junior Holy Spirit. There's just one Holy Spirit. There's one call. There's one mission. It's time to step up. We're not in kids' church anymore, you know? And so that's the expectation. But yeah, the stewarding for me is, man, I'm letting students speak. Like, you know, like a thought before we go into worship, I'm letting our leaders now start to preach. And I'll be honest, man, some of them, like, they're good, but they're not super great because they're starting. Right. So like, and it's not like, oh, I'm so good at what I do. I don't even think that. I just, when it's your first time doing something, it's going to be bad. Right. And so in that, I'm like, dude, we're going to lose people. No one's coming back. And it's not been the case. We've grown. And again, I don't care about numbers. I don't. Yeah, you go ahead, man. I'm just
right
talking.
there. What do you think that tells? I think that's speaking something to us. If we're listening and we have an awareness, because this is where I don't mind production in the sense of I want it to be good to remove distraction.
Yeah.
Right. So like this, this got delayed for so long, this podcast, trying to get the best audio, trying to get the best video. And I already suck at tech. So there's already that massive learning curve, right, that I'm having to come up on. For me, it was just, I don't want the audience to be distracted. But there is always that thought, especially playing in this game, Matt, you know, if the audio and the video is lacking, if the production is lacking, despite how powerful the content is, I think will naturally assume that we're going to lose our viewership. We're going to lose the people.
Yeah.
But what I heard and what you said is you found maybe a little bit of the opposite just now. That despite all of that, it was like that didn't matter. What did you elaborate on that? What are we thinking of this younger generation and not giving them enough credit and what they're really hungry for? Like, are we missing the mark? We had a previous conversation where we were talking about that. I think we're selling them a little bit short. Kind of elaborate on that point right there, because I think that can alleviate some of the false pressure of us trying to make sure that the experience we're trying to give to people, right, is so crafted and so perfect that we don't throw any newbie up there. So we're not allowing people to grow in their gifting and their potential calling because
we don't develop.
No, because we don't want to deal with the mess and we may lose people. So what did you find in that?
I'm currently like, here's what I'm finding. Always listen to God, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Like, God's telling me do it. I'm like, okay, like, whatever. I don't know. It's a way to develop people. And, you know, there's going to be a day I die and we gotta raise the church, man. We're the kingdom that, like, the generations before us in the church planted seeds so we had food to eat. So me and you had food to eat. It's our turn now to plant seeds so the next generation has food to eat so we can grow. And so, like, we got to develop people. We got to plant seeds in people. We got to pull out gifts in people. We got to cultivate the next church that's coming up. And so, man, again, and part of it, you know, it's my personality. I just don't care. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to teach that to someone.
Right.
You got to just not care.
Okay.
You know, when God created the world, boom, 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 he stopped. He goes, the world is good. I created the world and it was good. He didn't say perfect. He said good. Maybe the world was good enough to move on. maybe throughout the Bible, we're seeing a theme that God's not a perfectionist.
And that's wild though, because I feel like that has us redefine, because he's perfect when we think of the idea of a God who can't make a mistake, who doesn't fail, right? Who's not lacking in creativity, that he could make something better. We have this idea whatever he made that's the best he can do, essentially. We live in a world that, and I think this is where people get, and this may take it into a different conversation, but this is where a lot of people struggle with the context and the idea of God being good, or the idea, the reality that there's even a God at all. How can there be a God when there's so much hell and chaos, or the ability to even for there to be darkness? Why doesn't he just come all and save us? Why doesn't he, right? Just fix this crap. If he really cared, if he really cares about my depression, my loneliness, all the things in that, how do you, and have you dealt with experiences with students and with family members? And you probably have. Tell us if you can, and still be discreet about it, right? With it. Obviously, I know that you may not be able to say any kids' names or anything, put them on blast, but issues that you're seeing with students as you're having these conversations about the reality of God's goodness in a world that is shouting the opposite.
Yeah. And this is where I want to quickly answer the previous question. We are selling the next generation short. They're so hungry.
Yeah.
Like everywhere around them, they get baby. And so when they come to True North Youth, they don't get babied. And for some reason, I think they like it. And I think they're hungry for it. And so in this next question, man, we did a series. Manny Arango wrote a book called Brainwashed. It's a really good book. And it's just about the mind. And it's about how we were born into the mind of Adam and how we adopted the mind of Christ when we're saved. And so we're born with the mind of Adam. So we're talking about mental health issues, right? And a lot of times it's easy for the church to be like, don't have anxiety. Don't be depressed. And not even the church, just easy for old people to be like, when I was young, I wasn't depressed, right? Like it's easy to say. It's like, okay, but now what am I going to give you? I got to replace something with you. It's like sinning, right? So if you're sinning, it's like, don't sin. Okay, no, we got to replace that habit with something good.
Do though?
Yeah. What am I? Okay. Right. So you replace that habit. So, okay. So I read this book and I was like, man, I got to teach them this. I thought it was a great book, man. I thought Manny did a great job about adopting the mind of Christ. And so I wanted to teach them. That's what we're going to do. It's not just about being depressed. And so this series brought up a bunch of, I called a lot of stuff up to the surface that I don't even think I was expecting. I was just trying to like give them concepts and truths to hang on to and things but what actually happened, God was pulling a lot of stuff out up to the surface. And a lot of our students, not a lot of our students, but we had students in our youth group who were like, man, I'm struggling with suicide. I'm struggling, heavily with like low self-esteem, thoughts of hurting myself, anger, like, and we're just like, and these are sixth graders. We have high schoolers, like, and that's sad to me, man. Like I think about my nephew, right? I'm like, dude, that's my nephew. That's your son. That's wild. It's like, and they're struggling with real issues. And so then we got to talk about the goodness of God. And I was talking to my daughter because she was asking all sorts of crazy questions for a 6-year-old at the time. She's 7 now. But she was asking, we were talking about the of knowledge of good and evil. And so when we ate from the tree, right? When Adam and Eve ate from the tree, we have the knowledge of good and evil, but we don't. The difference between us now having the knowledge of good and evil versus God having that is God expands time, right? He's in and out of time. And so when we live in just this little bitty section, we have a very limited view of what good and evil is, what good and bad is. And so let me explain this real quick.
Yeah.
I have experienced a lot of church hurt, like probably a lot of Christians have. And when I went to New Orleans, a lot of hurt there happened. And a lot of things led me to work at Microsoft, like a lot of things. I had like 13 jobs, but I found myself at Microsoft. I did well there, got promoted, came out to Fargo. Like that's what happened. And then, but there was a lot of heartache. There was a lot of not eating for a week. There was a lot of relationships lost. There was a lot of hurt. right? That's not good. Why would a good God let me go through that? Like, why would a good God let me go through, even years before, what felt like my entire family disowning me, right? Kicking me to the curb. Why would a good God let my mom tell me she doesn't love me and she wants me out of her life, right? Why would a good God do that? All that led me to Fargo, which led me to come to be a next gen pastor at a church, which now helped me set up a space in a youth group that has led probably about 50 students to Jesus. And 10 of them for sure are feeling called to ministry. Some are starting to get set free. We had a kid who has been coming for a year, not saved, doesn't care. He keeps coming. He likes us, but he's not saved. During worship, no sermon, no altar call, God gave him a vision. He gave this man a vision, and that man gave his life to Jesus in the middle of worship. No one talked to him. Jesus talked to him. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's powerful. So how could a good God let Matt Short go through bad things? Because my story is very limited. My view is very limited. But if I can think eternally, right? Now I redefine what good is, because those were bad things. But those bad things
And
were
I think
actually
that distinction has to be made, because if not, I think a lot of people will say, because I've heard this said, and it just makes me want to scream, Matt Lee. It makes me want to just rip my hair out. Well, that, you know, someone gets cancer and dies. Well, just God needed another angel. Like, no, he didn't. Like, I think in this, I think we have to, like you talked about, say what these people did to me, what I went through was not good. Like, it sucked. It hurt. It was painful. It was evil. Words thrown against you. Things happening, because we can't start calling, right, good evil and evil good. And you're seeing that so pervasive in the culture that I don't think we know. There's so much confusion. And I think denial isn't the answer. I think what I'm hearing you kind of saying and seeing in that is that you found a way through all the hard crap that was painful, that was not good, that the old saying is true, that God takes all those things and he uses those. How do we keep ourselves, and you can finish if you had another thought and go on to this next, how do we keep ourselves from becoming, because it's so pervasive right now, it's so huge, how do we keep ourselves from becoming a victim and having that victim mentality, that the woe is me, because that person may never apologize to us. No. That person that hurt us didn't think that they even did anything wrong. You could have had a 1,000 conversations. I've had relationships and people as well that I've had to cut off for my own health and stop waiting for them to ever apologize. They're never gonna see it, like, whatever. How do we keep ourselves from going into wholeness? Because I think that's a lot of times what keeps us from seeing God as good, that he actually cares for me. Yeah, how do we not become the woe is me, the next victim thing, and cave into that pressure that I feel like we reward victimhood in this culture, man?
Oh yeah. I think a couple things. You know, I think you gotta keep your perspective correct. You gotta keep your perspective correct. You gotta understand kingdom, eternity. If I can understand that my however long I live on this earth is just this much compared to this much, right? You know, like a vapor, done, right? So like, if I can keep eternity in perspective though, and if I can just go, God, I want my story to help tell your story. I have to understand that there's a bigger story being played right now. You read that we're going through the series about Heroes of the Faith with our youth group. There's a bigger story that's happening that's spanned from the beginning of time to when Jesus comes back. There's a big story happening, and I get to play a very small role. That's the other thing. You're not the main character. No one cares. It's not your story. It's not your story.
We don't hear that, Matt. We don't hear that in the church, man. Like, we don't, right? It's my best life now, Matt. You should know this.
No.
A famous pastor told me that.
Yeah.
It's rainbows and sprinkles, man. I want it now. It's always got to be my way. Like,
do you remember in Job?
Cross. What?
Yeah. Do you remember in Job? My man just lost everything. We're like, I'm just going to read it. Chapter 2, verse 10. But the wife verse 9, she says, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. And he says,
wife. Is it always their fault?
Yeah, it's God's fault. Curse him and die. And he said, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Check this out. This is what I've been dealing with like the past 30 days, 35 days. I've been wrestling with this verse. So I don't even know if I have an answer. I'm just throwing it out there.
You're in the midst of it. I love it.
Shall we indeed accept good from God? And shall we not accept adversity?
Mm.
And then you go read the story of Job. Think about Job. We don't talk about Job in the church. That's a hard one to talk about in the American church. Only good things from God. Yeah, but we don't accept his adversity because we have the wrong perspective. Again, it's about us. Mm-hmm. We still fail to realize that the life that we live is about Jesus. The breath that is in my lungs is on loan from God. And I'm going to do what I can to help tell his story. And so that's what I've submitted myself to that. I've surrendered myself to that. And so that helps me redefine good and bad. Yes, those things are bad, but I know God's going to use it for good. And I might see it and I might not see it. And I'm okay with that.
Do you think on this side of eternity, we will ever get, you said, I may not have that answer yet, but I love that. One, I think we need to see more humility and vulnerability on that when it comes to pastors, us thinking we always have to have the answers, right? That pressure, someone comes to you. And what if the most life-changing thing you could say to that person is, man, I don't know right now.
So I'm trying to find out.
I'm on this walk and I'm on this journey also. Like we know
I'm not Jesus Christ.
Right. It's I'm not on the
My God, that's Jason Bourne.
My God, Jason. My God, it's Jesus. No, it's not. It's Matt Short. It's Taylor Morgan. Like, I don't know either.
Try my best.
Cheers. Like, I'm with you on that, right? Do you think we will ever have that answer or any answer to our questions that we're asking? And that if God even gave us the answer, I think I'm finding out personally, because I've had a lot of wars with God, a lot of wrestling and struggling with certain things throughout my life, that after years of going through it, I'm finding out he's not bending to my question. He's either one, ignoring me, two, he doesn't care, or what I'm finding is, I think if he even answered it, it's not going to help. We think that if we get the answer to our questions, that solves all of the problems, that solves the dilemma. Oh, and then I can have like this rest, like, thank you. And I don't know if that's the way necessarily to go about it, that there's mysteries and things that are, and I think it actually even talks about that in Job. Like, where were you when
Can I read it?
Look at he got it. Look at that right there, y'all. He's got it pulled up.
In 40,
Incredible.
Chapter 40. Because this, so going back to like, will we get the answer?
Why?
Let me ask you this. This one I want to ask your viewers. This one I want to ask myself. This is what I want to ask the American church. Why do you think you deserve or need the answers? So read this. 40, verse 2. Shall the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? He who rebukes God, let him answer it. You got something to say to God? This is God talking. God. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me.
Man up. You want this? Okay. He's like, all right.
Where were you when the world was created? Did you put the stars where they are? Do you watch the deers give birth? Do you take care of the birds? Did you move the mountains? Oh, you didn't? Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni, right? Like, that's that moment where it's like, okay, like I'm seriously, I'm reading Job and I'm like, okay, this is it. Because honestly, this seems harsh, but this sets you free. Once you realize and you actually surrender, you surrender to it, you submit to God. God, you got it. It actually takes a lot of weight off you. I need to know the answer. No, you don't. You're not God. You're going to question me. You're going to keep coming after me. Like you don't even, this much when I'm living in this much. And you can either submit your life in this little time that we have to be a part of his story or not. And I choose to do it. It's helped my anxiety. It's helped my pressure. I don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
We live in a world where the internet's on our phones. We know way too much. We're all stressed. We're all suicidal. We all have anxiety. God's like, you don't want to know. Know this, though. I'm good. And I know that. I know God is good. Because, again, what was bad, what happened that was bad to me, God has turned it for good in my life and also in the lives of the students in my youth group. And I've seen it. I've seen him be faithful. And if I sit and actually think about those times where I had hard times, when family was leaving, or when a brother got hit by a drunk driver, or like I'm sitting there and I think about these things. I can actually, now that time has passed, I can look back and I can see God in all of that. I can see where God was walking with me to make sure I wasn't alone, that he actually never left me or forsook me.
Right.
Forsaked. You know what I'm saying?
Forsake. Y'all get it.
You get it. But I can look back and I can see that he was always there. He was faithful.
Yeah.
He is good. And again, it just goes back to like, it shifts your mindset, dude. Like, you're not the main character. It's not about you. This story, the world that we're living in, we're in a story and we're witnessing God redeeming what Adam and Eve messed up. And we're getting back to that point. And we get to be a part of that story of how we get back to full relationship with God, the way he created it back then. That's the story. The story's about Jesus. That's the story.
It has me.
You're an NPC, a non-playable
As the
character.
verse ringing in my ears in NPC. He who tries to save his life will lose it, but he who loses his life for my sake will find it. Man, I was watching on a recent podcast interview. I can't remember which one. I don't even think the guy was a Christian. Regardless, this was still the statement he said was still facts, was still truth. He said 99%, or if not 100%, of the reason of our depression, our anxiety, and everything, all the mental stuff right that we're dealing with, he said, is 100% always goes down to it's the obsession with self. And now that strikes at us because we can sometimes immediately think, well, wait, I'm not arrogant. I'm not self-absorbed. The obsession with self and self-absorbed, I think there's a distinction in that those things aren't always the same. And what I found was the asking of all my questions, wanting things to have it my way, me. It was just, it's my life, my problems, my issues, me. It wasn't, look at me. I wasn't trying to like, it was more self-obsession with my issues, my story, my. And I'm continuing to see that. And man, that's, I don't know, that's just really good. Again, I'm not, like you said, we're not the main characters. We're playing in a much larger story that the author is writing. And if we can let go, I think that's a discussion to be had, that how do we heal ourselves from anxiety, depression, again, especially in a culture, I feel that like that rewards it. You know, I still think it goes back to the old saying, it is the carrying your cross. And I think we'll start to look at those verses. And I think you said it somewhere back that as hopeful and as bright instead of the gloomy verses, because I think that's what we did. We cut out those scriptures. That's the bad stuff. We don't want to talk about that. So we don't preach that anymore. We're taking away crosses out of our church. Anything that has anything to do with resembling hardship, enduring, suffering, pain, we've tried to, I think, remove that. And I think in essence, maybe what we have done is removed our entrance into the life that Jesus promised. He says, I want to give you life and life more abundantly. Come and learn from me. My yoke is easy, right? Like my burden is light, but you got to die.
You got to
like
die.
That's the interest. I don't know. I feel like that gives us, like you said, I think the whole word around this really was, and you said it was perspective, and perspectives are formed more healthily when they're formed out of truth. And yeah, man, I don't know. I think that's good. Guys, I think that can help a lot of us who are going through things and the obsession with wanting to answer. Man, I can just be that way. And it's been really hard, Matt, honestly, to let go of wanting to have the answer, and not just like a sentence, but like this situation, like answer. And I want it fixed. I'm going through some physical stuff right now with my back, that it's been a long journey since I was like 20, had lower back surgery. And now I'm having stuff that's going on with my upper back. And here's another thing. And I'm doing all the right stuff. And I was in the gym and I'm eating right. And this is like what I get. And so on a much, much, much lesser form, I see what Job was going through, right? Job did like the dude was a righteous man. He did all the right stuff, and his entire family just got like died. His crops, everything gets destroyed. And in our minds, I would say, no, Job, you had every right to complain. You had every right to be frustrated. You had every right. So is it a letting go of our rights to be offended. Because, bro, offense is a
Again,
cancer.
there's only one God. There's only one throne. Only one person can sit on the throne. You or God. You want the rights? Cool. You're not going to make it. I don't know what to tell you.
There's thorns that come with rights. And I don't think we can separate that. And it's going to hurt. You want your rights? Okay.
Yeah. You got to put God on the throne. You got, and honestly, serious, I just want to go back to it. Like, it will lift a weight off your chest the moment you go, I'm here. I've submitted my life to you. I don't, like, whatever happens. I've submitted it to you. I want to be a part of the story. However that is. The dude in the background sweeping the floor that is on screen for 0.3 seconds, or the extra that's off the screen that never made it in. I don't care. I don't care where I'm at. I know this. I don't even have a speaking part. We don't have speaking parts. If we can understand that I think that changes the game for how we live. I think that changes our perspective. I think that changes how we go into our work, how we go into our relationships with our friends and our family. I think that changes everything. And now that puts me on mission again, because the breath in my lungs is on loan from God. It's not my breath. What am I going to do with the thing he gave me?
I think America, I just got to saw this picture, has been choking on its own selfishness. In an attempt to heal itself. We have obviously went about it the wrong way. I think we've done good in recognizing, hey, I have an issue that needs to be fixed. I'm struggling with this. There's pain in my life. We're not, and y'all hear us, we're not saying to not cry out to God in our time of trouble. He does answer. I just think in the way he answers, we need to have a loose grip in how he answers, when he answers, whatever the resolution is, and that if nothing ever changes, I think they're Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like, if
it's
you
my
don't,
favorite verse. It's my
if you
favorite
don't
verse.
save in that song, Shane and Shane, burn this. I mean, come on. If you don't come, but even if you don't,
dude, it's the most gangster verse in the Bible.
Where's that? I just feel that, man. I think we need that mentality back in us. I think that's been stripped in us.
That mentality.
We don't know how to suffer. We don't know how to suffer well. And that suffering is, listen, he said it. Tribulations are going to come. You buckle up. Like, it's going to happen. How do we build that? How do we build that mindset, Matt? And what's the importance of, because I talk about it a lot in this space, what's the importance of community when it comes to keep building and keeping that mindset for longevity?
Ask that one more time.
Oh, man. The importance of that, strengthening our mindsets in the context of community, brotherhood. I'm thinking like when I think it said in Timothy, enduring hardship like a good soldier. And he used that word soldier in Jesus, that we need to have a buckle up mentality, not necessarily expecting life to always suck. I think there can be an error in that well, all of life is hard. Well, no, he did promise joy and peace and the fruit of the spirit and those things. But
joy is not happiness. But
yes. So joy in circumstances where I don't get my way. So my happiness, my joy is not is based upon the outcome that I'm wanting seen done in my life, or always having it my way. Yeah. How do we build up that mentality? And again, so I was saying in the context of community, what is the importance of that, and what type of people do our listeners do we need to surround ourselves with to help encourage that side that may say things that are hard things?
Yeah.
That we need to hear. We need to have friends and people in our life that can say the tough stuff that I'll say it. Damn, I didn't want to hear that. That sucked. And I may be pissed off at you for like a week, but I know you're right. And
I'll never tell you.
And I'll never tell you. F you. But God dang it. Right?
Yeah.
We can't ever tell them. No.
Yeah, man. I think you dude, how you get there, I think you got to repent first. Man, just go to Psalms.
That word? Well, repent. What's that word? What is that?
Yeah, that's
I've never heard. Is it?
Repent.
Okay. Yeah.
Repent, man. You got to repent. And I think you repent. You ask God to search your heart, and you got to take it a day at a time. But like, I don't know. It's also my personality though, too. It's easy for me to do this.
Why do you think that? Do you think there were factors early up growing on? Because some people will say that, well, I'm just not like that, Matt. Good for you.
Yeah.
But people will use that as a scapegoat, an excuse, right, to never grow into that. So you you would say that, right, you're naturally inclined, and there comes with that. But how does someone who's not naturally inclined get to that point?
Read your Bible, right? You like read your Bible. Go read Job. Go read the Bible. Read all of it. Take yourself out of it and read it. Understand what's happening. Surround yourself with people who will call you out. Iron sharpens iron, right? If I got friends that are always like, I want friends like my acquaintances, right? I want them as cheerleaders. All my cheerleaders, I need them kind of my, like, you're my outer circle friends. Cheer me on. But then I got my teammates who, if I miss a block, if I don't do the right thing, they're going to come yell at me and curse me out and say, like, you didn't do this fundamental thing right. You didn't tackle right. You didn't do this thing. It's a fundamental thing. You did it wrong. Okay. I'm sorry. I need that. You need that. You as in Taylor and the listener, whoever, like, that's what we need. Yeah. We need those people. And if you're going to sit there and like, well, that's just not me. Well, guess what? Grow. Are you 4 years old? Grow. And if you don't want to grow, then stay 4. Nothing's ever going to change in your life. You're just going to still be self-absorbed, self-obsessed, and you missed the whole point of this conversation. Grow. I don't know. You got to be willing to grow. You got to be willing to be, okay, I need to keep leveling up. We love that term in some of these spaces. Like, you got, so for any of our non-believers, level up, grow, read books. If you're okay with who you were 2 years ago, you're in a bad spot. Grow. That's not me. Then get off this podcast.
That's not hate language.
Trying to do what your thing. I don't care, dude. Yeah. And then I mean, community, man, it is very important. Community is important. I'm going to get it wrong again. I've read enough to know, but not enough to know. But like they say, like, you're like the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. It's like, who you hanging around? Who you hanging around with? And so if you're hanging around with a bunch of wimps, a bunch of Christians who think it's all about them, get around some Christians who understand what it's about. If you're not a Christian, you're in business, and you're around a bunch of business owners, their businesses are failing, get around change your group. You're the average of the people you're around.
But so Matt, what if it upsets them and offends them?
Bye. I don't know how to help you with that.
Oh man.
I wish I had the answers for you and for the place.
You can see it in Matt's brain. There is no, that's not in there. And I'm going to be honest, man. Guys, I've said this to many of my friends. I've said this to Matt, my good friend here, Pastor Alan Kendrick of Vivid Church. I said, everybody needs a Matt Short in their life. He's the type of guy. You got to have someone that doesn't give a damn. You got to have someone that's going to just, I'll just say it. This dude needs to hear it. You got to have that guy that can just come into a room and say the hard things and be like, God, I don't know if I like the way you said it. Dude, you're so right. And I'm so glad you said it finally. I think there's going to be a returning, though, to the acceptance of tough conversations, of saying words and things that don't crumble us and destroy us, and where we call other people evil and mean by saying things that were harsh. I'm finding out I'd much rather have the content be correct, and I'm not as worried anymore as the delivery or the manner in which it's said. So, like, I can get like that. That's what tough love, I think, at some point kind of is yes, God is right. His life, this gospel, this beautiful gospel, it's filled with grace, this forgiveness and everything else. But I have found personally that, I mean, you just read and even look through the Old Testament a lot of times that God let his people get their butts kicked by their enemies. So you would come back and do that word, repent. Like, you can learn a couple other ways. And like, that is love. That's goodness. And I think we talked about this, redefining goodness, shifting our perception. Some of the main points in this, finding out we're not the main character in this story. And that's actually a great thing, because you're right, man, that's so beautiful. I love seeing it that way. That takes the pressure off of me.
It's not up to me.
Oh, wait, it's actually not about me. It's actually the most freeing thing you can maybe, if you haven't heard anything in this entire podcast. I mean this with all due respect and love. And Matt's saying this. It ain't about you, honey. It ain't about me. It ain't about, and I promise you, whether you agree or not, you want that, and you need that message in your life. You can go make it about something else. You can make it about something or someone bigger, higher, broader, grander, or grandiose. than you. And you're right, Matt, finding healthy community, they will keep you to the promises you've made. They'll keep you reminded of the healthy perspectives. We'll keep each other in line with the principles and making sure that our actions are aligning with our words and our words are aligning with our actions.
Yeah.
I even think we're actually living this thing.
Yeah. I even think about Paul and Silas. They got caught. The police got them. They're in jail. Easily could have been sad. Easily could have been like, this sucks. What are we doing? But because they surrounded themselves with the right people, both understood that where they were at was okay. And they understood that why they were there was okay. And they understood that who they were there for was with them. Because they surrounded themselves with the right people. Instead of complaining and crying about woe is me, what did? They started worshiping with each other in the jail cell. And then, earthquake happens. God sets them free. Jailer gets saved. All good stuff. But I even just want to stay on that moment. They could have complained with each other, but because they were around with the right people, it helped them both keep their perspective right. If Paul would have brought a weenie, a wimp, a Christian who didn't get it, who thought it was all about him, now he's got to carry that weight. Dude, it's not about you, but they understood. They both understood. Iron sharpens iron. If you're afraid of hard conversations, if you're afraid of someone trying to challenge you and grow you, you're weak. You got to get stronger. That's okay. You got to just get stronger. I'm not saying you're always going to be weak. I'm just saying right now, you're sensitive.
And I think you have to willingly put yourselves in those situations. I have found it easier to willingly put yourself in those environments, create those environments for growth instead of life coming to be the teacher. Life will be a much harder, more forceful teacher because one, it's like it's unexpected. I didn't sign up for this. Where at least we can brace ourselves. And I'm speaking to those who made this may be new. I used to struggle with conflict because all I ever saw growing up in my life was conflict that always ended unhealthy. Separated relationships. I'll never talk to you again, right? Just conversations of disagreement to where it was whoever yelled the loudest won.
Yeah.
But that's just really a sign of insecurity. Like you talked about weakness that like we say on this podcast, but this is the #1 episode. We will say,
let's go
on this podcast that I truly believe it. The conversations can change the world. Why? Because conversations change people. They change me. If we're not willing to have healthy conversations, and I thank God that we live in an America where freedom of speech, regardless of the aisle, your opinion, how dumb, smart, whatever it is, you get to say that. But we live in an America and thank God I believe that's being protected and saved for another discussion at another time, that we can have conversations and not cancel out somebody's opinion. Yeah. Because I think that's the only way we grow, Matt. I think that's the only way that the sword of the word of God both cuts, and I said this the other day, both cuts and heals. But a lot of time we're never going to get to our healing if we're not willing to be offended first. Cut. Well, how dare you? Well, I don't believe in that. So again, just on purpose, you guys, creating environments, community that will challenge your thinking. Get around other people that have different perspectives. Get around other people that have different thoughts or ways of thinking. Put yourself in those places of conflict that actually challenge the status quo in your life. The same. You want a real quick and easy way to just break out of the monotony of your life, and you're finding life boring. Find a podcast that you would maybe never listen to. Find a book that you would never find yourself picking up a reading. I'll never forget about 2 years ago, door dashing, right? I was probably on the phone with Matt doing the thing. And I go into a Barnes and Noble and I just felt like the Lord was like leading me to like this business book, an area that I would never have walked in. I said, that's not for me. Oh God, help me. And going down this rabbit trail now of here I am reading books that are literally changing my life. I picked up one right here, The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. I'm telling you, it's going to be a top 3 book, maybe besides obviously like the Bible, but I'm talking like, author, right? Y'all get it. I just felt I just felt all the Christian people. How do you hear what he said?
Hey, for their record, the Bible's not a book, it's a library, so they can correct themselves. 66 books.
Well, but anyways, phenomenal book. But my ability to go down the rabbit trail of that and going down the curious path. Well, what person could I become? What am I, what experience is being negated out of my life out of my unwillingness to go down that said path? Because I don't believe it's for me, or how can that help me?
We're reading a book in our staff, and we had our development time, our spiritual development time, our group time, and we're talking, and this book pissed me off. I mean, just absolutely. I'm reading it and I'm like, what am I reading right now? Book's trying to make a point using a horrible analogy. It just sucked. It sucked and it made me mad. And I had to like coach myself through it. And I was like, basically one of it was like, people with the poverty and middle class mindset don't understand the sacrifice that God made on the cross. And I was like, what? So upset. I almost ripped the book in half. I almost ripped it, burned it.
Yeah, like, who do you think you are?
Yeah. It's like, okay.
Wait,
but
what?
Here's what's good about reading a book that you disagree with. It helps you formulate your thoughts. It gives you something that will challenge your thoughts and now help you start to think about, what do you actually believe?
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's another reason. Like you got to be around things.
I think we're terrified to test our beliefs.
Yeah, you're terrified to test your beliefs. Yeah. And when we're around people who only are on our side,
right?
Again, there's no sharpening.
Right.
Reading this book, there's some stuff, and it's like you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There was a lot of bathwater, but in there was a baby, was some truth. Yeah. And so I had to sit there and like, I had to find it. I had to search through it. I had to like try to think, what is this guy trying to tell me? So there's truth there. But like that's why it's good. It's good to read stuff that's like, well, that's not for me. You want that because you want it to challenge your thoughts, your beliefs. Like, because again, that will just strengthen. It will either teach you something, like it'll teach you something regardless, but it could reinforce, it could build, it could be a foundation block. It could also be something like, dude, that is wild. I don't believe that. What do I believe? Okay, now I can put this to words. This is what I believe. That's cool. I've never said that before, And either way, like, growth is happening. So get out of your echo chamber.
Dude, that's so good. I think that's another form and a way to, again, get rid of the self-absorption we were talking about. The me. All you hear is your thoughts. You only hear your opinions. You only hear your way. Man, that's so self-delivering. Like that is. I think many times we're crying out to God for deliverance in areas when He's like, no, like you've got the power to get me when I say this. Deliver yourself. If you just take a different path that you're not used to taking. Because a lot of times we talk about deliverance, like it's like we're locked up in this. Yeah. This can be the torture chamber, or this can be the place of freedom and creativity and expression. But again, you have to willingly put yourself in those places of reading different books, listening to different opinions, having those conversations, that be willing to embrace the vulnerability of growth, because there's always going to be that tension point to where it's like you want to retreat. I want to back out that conversation that's getting really awkward. You're like, oh my God, you start to slowly moonwalk.
Yeah.
Like
you got the skills. I don't. Nick.
I just saw a new guy.
Nick.
What's his Nick? Guys, if you haven't, it's a great show.
Minutes.
This is my nightmare. Like, he was that guy, right? He never wanted to be in those places, right? Those situations. And again, if you're not like Matt, you guys lives for those moments. He's like, God, I was born for this.
I like going into rooms, saying stuff I don't believe just to spice things up.
Throw a firework.
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah.
I want to see, I test people.
Yeah. It's neat. I'm telling you guys, everybody needs a Matt Short in their life. Let's go ahead and I want to wrap up some ending, little firecracker, little things at you guys. If y'all didn't know, Matt, tell us again. You were number one player in the world. Am I correct on this?
Yeah.
In a specific game, guys. Y'all need to know that Matt. There's more to Matt than y'all realize. And yes, family, next gen pastor, husband. He's a great dad. But this guy is a gamer.
I was number one in the world. Gears of War 2.
Yo, one. Number one.
Not in like, the country, the college I was at, the world. I had no girlfriend, no life.
Are you telling me that's
dude?
That right there is the secret. A lot of guys just like figured out that's it. Divorce is the No.
No, no. Dude, I did. I
Level
put in
up.
the work on Gears of War. I would show up in lobbies in Gears of War 2. This was back in Xbox 360 too, so people would
Oh, yeah.
just be talking
Glory
when
days.
you could talk
Yeah.
to people and they got wild. But I would show up in a lobby and then they would be like, oh, God, short for Matt's here. And then, you know, whoever was on my team, they would tell their teammates, like, we're going to win this game. And we would win.
And we would.
Yeah, there was like, dude, and there was at the time like I just learned about Twitch. I think Twitch was just kind of starting, YouTube was starting, and man, I just wish I had stepped into it then. Well, and again, you know, I say I wish I did. I'm glad I'm here, you know.
Yeah.
But that was an opportunity missed when I was younger because I was number one in the world. I was really good at the game, and I would have been banging in the paint, dude, just blasting people.
How long has it been since you've played any Gears game? Because they're making a new one, or is it already out?
Years. They got worse for me. Some people might like them, but I was over it.
Okay.
I was over it. Also, the older you get, you know, you're trying to give all your time to your family. Then when you do get time to play, I'm looking for some peace.
We want to chill now. It changes. It really does.
I'm trying to paint minis, do a puzzle, listen to an audiobook.
We've arrived, guys. We're at that. Times have changed, man. I love it. So tell them what else you're doing. I know you've got a separate YouTube channel, which I love. My kids love. They watched all the videos, unless you put out a recent one that I haven't seen yet.
I haven't yet.
What you doing on that?
Dude, some things, you know, working in ministry is fun. It's great. But with, I had left Microsoft. I was making good money, good benefits, great company at the time. Now that I would change my opinion. But at the time, they were paying my bills. So I was working hard and honoring them and trying to, you know, bring glory to God through it. But so I ended up getting a pay cut and working at a church, super fun pay cut. And so I tapped into some childhood stuff. I was like, dude, because my kids, we've been watching Pokemon. And I'm sitting there thinking, yo, these guys are out here making good money buying Pokemon cards, selling Pokemon cards, opening up Pokemon cards on their YouTube channel. And I'm like, why can't I do it? So I know why I can't do it. I don't got time, but I'm trying. So I've sold 3 cards on eBay. I've made $620 so far.
Yeah.
So that, man, I'm sitting here just trying to have a fun hobby, buy some cards, open them up on YouTube. Hopefully.
What's the name of that YouTube channel?
The Wizard's Draw.
The Wizard's Draw. You guys,
dude, I love fantasy. I love fantasy, and so I didn't want to just keep it just to Pokemon.
Oh yeah, all us awesome nerds say
it could be anything. So, and I figured, dude, what would a card shop be if it was like in Lord of the Rings? It'd be the Wizard's Draw. So that's what it is. Just a
Gandalf in the corner, just wrecking fools in games.
Dude, do you remember that one? It's that meme. It's like Frodo's like, "Where were you, Gandalf?" And he like stops, and it's that dude at the rave, slinging yo-yos. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember the guy. That one is so great.
Dude, cut to it in the post.
I was delayed. Oh my gosh, man!
So I'm having fun with that.
Yeah, I love it. You got to have these pursuits, these passionate pursuits, like guys. Those things they're so important. Dude. Like the more you realize as you get older as well, man, that like fun doesn't have to leave us, right? When we leave like middle school, high school, like, you know, because life gets real and bills and all that, and it's a reality.
And even though you're not the main character, Taylor, you can have fun.
Right?
It's not like Jesus isn't like, it's not every living second is suffering, right? Have fun.
Have fun.
He wants you to have fun. It's when the trials come, learn to suffer well.
Yes.
And change your perspective.
Yes. But it's like, don't look for the cactus to sit on it. Like, that's not it, but it's
yeah. But no, dude, have fun. Go have fun. God's given you desires, passions, and dreams because he wants you to use those things to impact where you're at. Whether you're Christian or not, I believe that. Yeah. You got something inside of you because God's given it to you because he wants you to impact where you're at. Just follow it.
So last question, Matt, kind of wrapping this thing up, you know, I'm thinking, you know, right, in the midst of all of our passions, our pursuits, a culture that talks about grinding, right, and hustle and sweat. And while I think there's merit and there is an advantage in that, and that the culture does reward hard work and effort, and there should be a works to our faith and to our life and everything we're doing, How do you're a family man, you've got kids, you've got a wife, you're doing ministry, you're doing gaming, you're doing YouTubing, you've got all these things, friendships, community, right? It's like we're trying to do all this stuff. We're trying to balance that. Is that the right word? Or how do we balance all these things so that one thing is not dying? We're trying to keep all of these things alive. What's that look like for you?
So when I was working at Microsoft, man, we love to say, and I'm sure any of your viewers who work at any other job, that's any job, we all hear it, work-life balance.
Mhm.
Did you got to have work-life balance? You're like, yeah, I want work-life balance. And since coming onto this job and stepping into this role as the next gen pastor at this church, I've learned it's not about work-life balance. It's about rhythms. And I think that's where a lot of people get like hooked, messed up, like they get stuck on that. Work-life balance, balance, balance. No, dude, it's rhythms. Sometimes in life, certain things take more importance than other things. And then another season changes, and what was important is now not as important, and something else rises. And so now this is like there's a thing. I like to think of it like music. A song starts, right? You know, you got the guitar, the intro, you know, and then the drums come in, right? And so like stuff starts to happen, and then you get into the verse, and maybe like some of the instruments go away, and a new instrument shows up in the verse, and now someone's singing, and then we go into a chorus, and now the whole band is in. Oh my gosh, life's so crazy right now. Everything is happening. We're in the chorus, right? It's getting crazy. We're back to a verse. Some of those instruments drop back out. Now I'm kind of back at like, this is normal life. That was a crazy season, wasn't it? This is a normal life. And so it's like, it's rhythms. And so you follow the rhythms. Like I think of Dune. Did you ever watch Dune?
I've seen the first. I've not seen the second one yet.
Okay, well, the first one. I'm talking about in the first one where he's flying the thopter, right? And his mom's in there, and they're in the sandstorm, and they're trying to escape. And, you know, he just shuts off the thopter because he's trying to fly against the wind, and it's tearing up the helicopter, right? Tearing up their ship.
Okay. Yeah.
And he just turns it off and just goes with the wind.
Y'all hear that? Y'all gotta let that sink in. There's an amount, right, like of trust in that moment to let the wind of our life that's guided more by a rhythm and a feel and a flow than we love to talk about, right? Like our structure, and you've got to have this is an order and the way that things will always go, but life doesn't always let B come after A. Sometimes it's C, A, B, and D, G, F, Q, Z, 1. Like, I think that we can become, and tell me what you think, so rigid when it comes to structure that sometimes I think we need to have more fluidity in our structure so that we can go, which I love what you're saying, that it's not just about balance, right? Because if like all the EQs of the bass and everything is blasted out, like you're not hearing a song anymore. You don't even know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
And I think we feel that internal like pressure sometimes. We're trying to hold all the plates of life because we've been told balance, right? Like you said, work-life balance, everything. What are some things we can do? Some practical things, or even spiritually practical things to create those rhythms in our life.
We did a book called Rule of Life, and you can look this up on the internet. There's several, but we went through one, and it was literally like, what is a rule of life? And so, and we, you know, you define that yourself. And we went through like a 12-week process of reading this book, doing a workbook with each other, having to like determine what my rule of life is, not your rule of life. Also, my rule of life typically will change. And so like you can make a rule of life for like a year, like for this year, this is the rule of life. And this is what I'm going to stay to. Like, again, because not everything is important. Not everything is urgent. And you got to determine like, what needs to actually be in the song right now, right? Not every instrument needs to play. Are you having, you know, relationship problems? Then that should probably be in the song. That should be something you're focusing on, right? You struggling with your husband or with your wife, like their top priority, your hobby comes down. Well, I just need me time. Yeah, well, in this rhythm of the song, in this section of the song, that's out. It's time to put in some work in the relationship, right? Or business. Or it could be flip-flop. Now everything's good. Now I can add. We're in the course now. We worked through that. We went to counseling where the business is doing well. I can now add my hobby again. Right? It's just Yeah, it's really just determining what's important, and you got to be honest with yourself and decide, okay, this is what my life needs right now. I'm a grown man, and I took everything off my phone because my life needs silence right now. Like I texted you a link to a phone I want to get last night.
I saw that, man. That's wild.
That's what I want. It's the Light Phone 3. Like there's nothing on it.
Y'all got to look that up.
That's
awesome. If you haven't heard it, yeah.
That's what I want, because that's, I think, the season of life I'm in. I need to be more present with my family as I work longer hours and give to other people and to other families in our church community. When I'm home, I got to be more present, because that's what's most important. Not me time to decompress.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's the rhythm I'm in, and so that's what I need to lean into. And so it's really just figuring out, being honest with yourself and figuring out, this is what I need in this season of my life, and understand that seasons come and go, and you have to understand that that's going to change, and you always have to be looking inward. Like, okay, it's time. We got to make this change. We got to do this.
I think that it's so good. It's really trusting the author and finisher of our faith, again, who's ultimately, again, writing. This all connects. We're not the main character. That God is writing. He's composing a song. He's writing our story. And it really does come into not demanding we have our answers, not demanding that we could even ask the question, but really letting go and not demanding our way, that it's got to be this way, because the seasons in life, God is right. He's trying to always get our attention through, you can use anything, through nature, through friends, through family, through books, through songs, through something on the TV, something you hear, that our environment, and what Matt is saying as well, is be discerning what is the environment telling us is needed for this song, this bridge of the verse in our life, instead of us demanding. And I found this out, that I'm doing music stuff. I do music things, and I'm a songwriter. And Matt, I got some awesome news for you as well on that. I'll actually be going to Nashville recording in February. I haven't even talked to you about this yet. Anyways, so in songwriting, right, you can get to a point.
Weird flex, but I'm proud of you.
It fits in with what I'm talking about. Hey, I wasn't even going to talk about it until we got to this point. You know, I'm a song. No one knows me. So you don't want to force. The song has a life of its own. And what if we look at our life, and again, being able to step outside of ourselves and say, what is this song? What is it asking of, instead of what if I'm trying to demand I put upon it? Because that's where that friction comes, and we get stressed out, and we get pissed, and we get angry, because we think we have an idea of life. But if it's not just about us, well, someone else may not like that. Someone else may think the bridge needs to go this way. So when we're looking at it, how does this affect my family? How does it affect my kids? How is this affecting my church life? How is it affecting my other relationships? That I do think we're not living according, to the fear of the opinions of people, but to completely shut out what anyone else cares or thinks isn't the right thing. I don't think that's the right thing either, because our actions, our words, what we do affects other people. And I always say this, your yes is always connected to a no. You giving your yes to something is saying no to something else. So that's so good. That balance is a myth. It's not possible. I can't be everywhere at all times giving all of my. I'm not. We talked about this often in a different conversation. Listen, I'm not Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
So when my yes is being demanded, the rhythm of life over here, y'all gonna have to figure it out.
You'll be
he's
okay.
Good. I promise you, he's good.
Yeah.
I can't remember, Matt, how you said it, but it was fantastic. It was fantastic. The guys that had me laughing the other day. I'm at the park. Remember what he said? How he said, he's like, "Listen, I'm not. I don't know. I'm not freaking Jesus, man. Like,
yeah,
go love on him. He's good. I swear."
Yeah, he is, dude. Go figure it out. Stop asking so much from your pastor, from your friends. Right. Anyway,
the Holy
that's not what
Spirit,
we're talking
he's
about.
within you. It's good.
He's good. Talking to you.
He is.
You want to hear him? You want to hear his audible voice? Read the Bible out loud. There you go. You'll be fine.
We don't need another word. We need the word that we have that's good, collecting dust up on the shelf. We just need to, open that one up and see what he's saying.
Can I say one thing before I think you're heading out?
Absolutely.
Can I give this motto? There's this motto I've been living by: New day, new blood. And I think I want to get a tattoo for for a ring, and it just says "New day, new blood."
What's that mean?
New day, new blood means a lot of things for me. I'll start with this. My sacrifice for my wife yesterday is not good enough for today.
And all of the Creed fans just had that song come into their head.
What song?
My sacrifice.
Oh,
As soon as you said it, I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
You get it. Dude, you're a Nashville guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So like it's new day, new blood. Yesterday's sacrifice is not today's sacrifice. Yesterday's work is not today's work. New day, new blood. Also, God's grace, God's mercies. It's new day, new blood. I'm not worried about yesterday anymore. Today's a new day, new blood. I worked so hard yesterday. Wednesdays are like 15-hour days for me. I'm tired. I'm an old man. Again, it's a young man's game, right? I put in 15 hours. What I do the next day? It's a new day, new blood. I can't talk about what I did on Wednesday. Today's Thursday. New day, new blood. How am I going to serve people? How am I going to work? How am I going to be involved with my family? How am I going to serve my wife? How am I going to, invest in relationships? And then I'm going to go. Then I'm be asleep, wake up. Guess what? New day, new blood. I got more to give. Taylor, you got more to give. Your viewers got more to give because his mercies are new every day, because his grace is good, because God is good. We have more to give. And so I think, like, for me, that new day, new blood is kind of a driving force of like, all right, dude, like I still have more in the tank because today's a new day and I can do it again because I know who's with me. So
that's so good. It's one of those things that each day is demanding the same intentionality. What I'm hearing is right. The same intentionality, the same effort. Me putting that demand on that healthy responsibility, that healthy demand on myself. But the freeing part of that also, that as if I didn't do as good as I should have yesterday.
New day, new blood.
New day, new blood.
New day, new
so
blood.
It frees me to not shame myself to where, and some of you guys that are listening may have been out there that like, you may have messed it up so bad this week that it blocks your today.
Yeah.
You can't almost even lift your head when you understand that, right? Like his mercies are new every morning. I love that. Even thinking of that new day, new blood, that, right? His blood, the redemption that's ever, right? That's in him. The same grace that saved you is the same grace that's keeping you.
Yeah. It's to me, it's such a powerful, like, mixture of truth and grace. It's a challenging statement. New day, new blood.
Yes.
New day, pick up your cross daily. New blood. Die daily. Die to yourself daily. New day, new blood. New mercies, new grace. Like, it's truth, it's challenging, it's convicting, but it's also full of love and grace. And it just, that statement just reminds me that, like, I have more to give to be a part of God's story. And I'm going to give it. Because again, my breath is on loan from God.
Truthful, challenging, convicting. You guys, everything this podcast is about. What a way to end that.
Let's go, dude. That was
what a
way
right there, man. That was a beautiful accident.
Cut.
Bye. You guys, episode 1 finally in the freaking books, and none other better than to do it with my brother-in-law, you guys. Once again, Matt Short.
Yeah. Taylor, dude, what an honor it is to be on your podcast.
Yes,
thank you so much for letting me be a part of what you're doing, the community that you guys have here at the place. Thank you. Seriously, I don't take it lightly, even though you're my brother-in-law and,
forced you to do this. It's crazy.
You helped me. Yeah, dude, seriously, an honor, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be a part, man.
Yes, sir.
The place community. Thank you for listening to me. If you did. So
y'all, we're coming. Appreciate you, brother. Remember, you guys, there is space for you at the place until we meet again. Peace.